Welcome back to the Garden Hutch. Today we're going to prep and mulch our raised garden beds for the summer. Let's get going. Summers here in Arkansas, Zone 7B, can be brutal on your garden plants. So today what I thought we could do is go through the pallet garden here while we prep the beds and cover them with our leaf mold. Now, one of the things that is the biggest challenge in an environment like we have here are making sure that your plants can stay nice and wet throughout the course of the summer, but that they're also not subjected to standing water. And I know that kind of sounds, a little backwards or whatever, but if the water stands in your raised garden beds, it's going to end up killing your roots, root rot, that sort of stuff. And if it flows too freely or the sun directly hits too much of the soil, all it's going to do is evaporate all of your water and your plants won't have access to what they need. So the way we handle that here on the homestead is we go through, we prep the soil, and we cover it. The last few years we've covered it with straw. This year we made our own leaf mold, and so we're going to use that. So the first step is prepping the beds. So let's take a look at what we've done. Hey, Ray. So you can see what we've done is we have gone through with the hoe and we have just made sure that the first 3 to 4 inches of the soil in our butternut squash bed are nice and loose. The reason for this is the ground can get really hard as the sun hits it, the rain comes down really hard. It impacts the ground through the course of the year. So before we cover it for the rest of the summer, I want to make sure that I allow the soil to get nice and loose. This is going to do a few things. It's going to allow the soil to absorb the water as we put it into the bed. It's also going to allow the excess soil to drain through into the bottom. I wanted to show this bed as well. It's just set up a little bit different so you have an idea of what we do when we use our tomatoes and peppers. All we've done is we've done the exact same thing. We break the soil up about 3 to 4 inches deep. But what I do is, if you can see it on the camera, here between all of this, I make like a grid where I put a small trough. It's probably only, 2 inches deep, maybe 3 comparatively to the area around it. And that's where we're going to end up putting our leaf mold. And the reason for that is it just kind of offsets it just a little bit, gives it a chance to absorb a little bit more, and it also will make those areas of the bed cooler. One other point I wanted to show before we moved on here, underneath and around our tomatoes at the base, I've made a small bowl, if you will, for lack of a better term. And the reason I've done that is I am going to water at the base of each of our plants. We don't have drip irrigation yet because we're still adding to the gardens. That is something once we finish we will do for time-saving purposes. But as of this year, we're going to have to manually water either by bucket or a water hose. And so we want to make sure that we can do that directly at the base. And having those little divots at the bottom of your plants will allow you to fill those up and make sure that the water filters directly down into the roots at the base of your plants. So before we go through and look at the application, I just wanted to show you guys this. This is what it came out of the bag looking like. It's still nice and wet, so it also is broken down into smaller pieces than what it was shredded into. It also has a really, really nice smell to it. If you're a big fan of a nice healthy compost pile, then this leaf mold is what you're looking for. So we have the beds covered now. So let's start here by looking at the butternut squash. All we've done is put about a 1/2 inch of the leaf mold in here. One thing I do want to note is this leaf mold, it got really compressed whenever it was in those bags over the few months with it being wet. So I did go ahead and fluff it out a little bit. So, if you were to take it just directly from the bag and put it in there, that 1/2 inch would be quite a bit more. I like to go ahead and fluff mine, whether I do the leaf mold or the straw. And the reason for that is it just allows a bit more of the water to go through. And it also makes a bit better of a barrier from the heat. You know, think about it, you know, like insulation or whatever. You know, the more air that you can fit between them, the better off the differential between the outside air and the underneath air is going to be. You can see the Roma tomatoes are also completed. Just wanted to point out a few things that are a bit different between the two beds. Here in the Roma tomato bed, we only filled in the troughs that we made. The reason for this is as these tomato plants begin to mature through the summer, this entire bed is going to be covered with tomatoes. There's not going to be a whole lot of light that's going to make it to the bottom of this bed. So say post, you know, mid-June, the actual act of shading the ground is not going to be as relevant as it is for something like the butternut squash that we're going to tame to come out of the bed itself. So it's still going to have a bit of exposure to the sun, whereas these tomatoes will not. So their main purpose in here is going to be water retention, and it's going to also help with a lot of the splashback from the surrounding soil. So when we go to water these at the base of them, down here, hopefully there's not going to be a whole lot of splash in there, but when it rains and the rain and water is coming directly down on it, you do have to worry about the pathogens, those sort of things from the ground splashing up on your tomato plants. And that's how you generally get things like blight or spotted leaf rot, any of those kind of things that infect your tomatoes. So that's it. That's all there is to it. Now our raised beds are ready for the summer. If you enjoyed this video, do me a solid and hit that little thumbs up button below. It does help us out quite a bit. If you enjoy these type of garden videos, consider subscribing to the channel. For the rest of 2023, we'll be putting out 3 garden videos a week, so hopefully there's something in there that everybody enjoys. As always, we appreciate all of you hanging out with us. Till next time, I hope you all take care of yourselves. Peace.